Okay, do another test.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, ready to go.
I can do that.
Hey.
All I have to do?
Yeah, we'll do some more. You guys be quiet back there now.
Okay.
Is my dishwasher making too much noise?
Go in the basement
Okay.
so they can't hear me.
So when you're answering these questions, you can just look at me. Actually,
Okay.
Tess, can you grab me one of those folding chairs?
Yeah.
I don't want to be on my knees. Not a young man anymore.
Your knees are bothering you.
You're not. Seriously?
Was that for you?
That's for me.
Craig gets a basket and I start sharing. Is that gonna be all right?
No, that's not gonna be all right.
Okay, what time's Craig supposed to get here? What time's Craig supposed to get here?
Did he say?
Working till 1.
1:30.
1:30.
I think he's working till 1:30. Or she's gotta work till 1:30.
Okay. So yeah, look at me when you're answering the questions. If you don't feel comfortable answering the questions, that's fine. We can just move past it.
Take the fifth.
Just
Okay.
say pass.
And you just say pass. That's fine.
Okay.
Just take the fifth.
All right.
Refuse to answer on the grounds that I can incriminate.
All right, Grandma. When and where were you born?
I was born on a farm at Elgin, Nebraska in February 11th, 1933.
There you go. All right. Tell me a little bit about your parents and their background.
Boy, well, they were, my mom was an only, no, she had a brother, and then she had twin sisters that died, and I really don't know where they lived when she was young, whether they lived out on a farm or not. And my dad, I think, always lived on a farm and was a farmer, so.
Did he always live in the area then, or?
Oh, always right around Elgin.
Okay. So, what, if anything, do you remember about your grandparents?
Well, my grandma Earhart, I never knew her at all. She died. She was diabetic, and she died very. My brother knew her, but he was the only one that knew her. And then my grandpa, he lived with my aunt and uncle out on the farm. We never ever had much, and I don't think Grandpa ever had much. So then he lived with his oldest daughter and her husband for a long time. So that's on my dad's side. And on my mom's side, her mother died very young. And he remarried, Grandpa Short remarried. In fact, he used to go to Florida. They had a lot of relatives. It was a big, big family. And they used to go down to Florida. I remember telling about it, I never knew it. So, and then he lived in Elgin. In fact, I think he built my folks' home, and he built a house in town, and he built a big barn out west of Elgin. So he was kind of a carpenter, so by trade. So he didn't farm. So, but the Earharts farmed, but not the Shorts. So.
Okay. Tell me about your siblings.
I've got an older brother, and my one brother, Wilfred, is the oldest, and my younger brother, Bill, is the youngest. And then I have my sister, Marjorie, and then Dorothy, and Irene, and then myself. So there were 4 girls and 2 boys, so.
Describe the house you grew up in.
Well, boy, when you talk to some other people that, we had running water at the bathroom. We didn't have electricity, though. But I mean, we were lucky when a lot of people, didn't even have an indoor bathroom or anything. So then I don't know when the REA came through. I can't remember that. But we used to have a wind charger. It sat right in the corner, and it would somehow, whatever it does, it would, the wind would make it blow, and then it charged the battery. So we would have, like in the dining room, we had a light coming down with 1 bulb, and then in the kitchen we had a light coming down with 1 bulb, and then we had a radio. That's the way we could, when World War II, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we could listen to it on our radio. We did have a radio, so really in a way we were more fortunate than some people. So.
Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna adjust your mic here. Okay. You remember what your bedroom was like? the house you grew up in?
Okay, well, we had 3 bedrooms upstairs, and my sisters, there were 4 of us, so we had 2 beds. Naturally, we had to sleep together, two to a bed. So, and it was nice. We had a closet and everything. It was, but you know, we didn't have no electricity or anything. I remember that was one of our chores. Was, you know, sometimes when you have a kerosene lamp, and if you turn it too high, it'll cause it to smoke, and that was one of the jobs of us girls, was we had to make sure that come evening that the chimneys, they were glass, that they were cleaned, so that way we could see. And then they'd take the wick, they'd have to take and cut off a little bit, so, because otherwise I don't know what it did, but, so.
You kind of touched on this a little bit. Yeah, there. Pretty consistent. We'll wait for it to ring out. Okay, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what was your family's economic state when you were growing up?
Well, you know, really, I can't say that we ever went hungry. We had, you know, we always had a big garden. We had chickens, and, you know, and my mom baked bread. She made our own clothes. She made clothes for us girls. I can't remember about the boys, but I know she did make clothes for us girls, coats and things, you know. She could do all that. So, but as far as being hungry or, you know, being without, I can't say that, you know, even our clothes. In fact, we used to, in Elgin, there was a store that sold feed. You know, now it is sold in sacks, but way back then, they were cloth. And we would go in, and we girls could even actually, you know, I don't know how many feed sacks it took, but we could, you know, they were pretty, and we could almost, and she made dresses out of those feed sacks, you know, so I don't think we ever had a store-bought dress, never, so, and the coats, I don't think we ever had a brand new coat, so. My mom was a great sewer. She was a good sewer that she could take and make an adult, you know, a woman's coat would be so much bigger, you know, that maybe she could almost make 2 coats for us girls out of her own coat, so. But I can't say that we ever were hungry, and we always had clothes, went to school, we were dressed, so, no, so.
You kind of touched on this a little bit too, but what were you and your siblings' duties around the house and the farm?
Boy, we had chores to do. You know, we had hogs, and, you know, and our dad, you know, he'd feed the hogs corn, you know, on the cob. That was one of the jobs we had to do, was take those cobs out of the hog pen and everything. So, and when we had to, naturally the stove was wooden. I remember that was one of the jobs, that you had to bring in a bushel of cobs so that they could start the fire for the next morning. So, and then we milked the cows, and I mean, we did everything, worked in the garden, you know, so, yeah. We never had an outside job, that's for sure. Everything we did at home, so.
When did you learn to cook?
Oh, I don't think I learned to cook until after I was married. Because my mom was a good cook, and I don't know, she never really pushed us into cooking. And, you know, we didn't, you know, like to bake cookies, heaven's sakes, we never did that. If, you know, things were, I'm sure, were very expensive, like flour and sugar. Well, you know, you can't just trust a kid to make cookies, maybe, and waste how much sugar and flour. So I can't say that I ever, when I was young, that I ever baked a cookie, bit cookies, because that was our mom's job, because she could do it and do it right, and she didn't waste anything, so.
What were some of the traditional family foods that your mom would make?
The meals, you mean?
The meals, yep.
Well, of course, we had our own chickens, you know. And of course, we didn't have refrigerators or anything. So you know, we'd kill a chicken in the morning and dress it and eat it the same day. We always had chicken. And then our dad, you know, had cows or steers, and so, but I can't remember the butchery, now whether, there was a locker in town, now whether he took something in there and had it made into hamburger and stuff, I can't really remember that, so, but I know my Paul, my husband, they would butcher. They would do it on the farm. They would, because we did it right after we were married. We had it was kind of a granary. They'd kill it and then I think they must have scalded it, and we had a great big vat. You'd scald it and hang it, but we never did that. His family did, but we didn't. So we just did the chickens.
What kind of activities did the family take part in? Games and things like that?
Well, what we did in the neighborhood, there was card parties, and as kids we would get to go play with the other kids, but as far as, it was mostly just, there was enough of us at home that we played at home. We really didn't, other than those card parties in the winter, I can't remember going to the neighbors much, so we didn't have, I think if we probably had a car, just one car, so of course we were within walking distance, we walked to school and everything, so, but of course we didn't have it. Oh, we did, on the radio you used to have, there was soap, what do they call them, soap operas, they'd come on over the radio, we'd get to listen to them, so.
Do you remember what your family would do for Christmas?
Well, we probably went to some relatives, but other than that, I remember we had a living room, and in the living room that was shut off. We couldn't go in there. And then our mom, we thought it was Santa, naturally.
1 second. Mom!
We thought it was Santa, but I'm sure it was our mom. We always got an apple and an orange. And then, they were, as I remember them, but of course at the time we thought they were great. We called them haystacks. They were kind of a chocolate on the outside and white on the inside. And then you'd get that hard sucking candy. And then we'd get a few peanuts and some nuts. And, really we didn't, we were just mostly people, we didn't go that much, so. I mean, to me, we went to our relatives. We'd go up and see, like my dad would like to go up because that was his dad, was living up with my aunt and my uncle. And we'd go up to Idie's and Charlie's as young kids, and, we'd be there. And we really did things with our families, the families. But I can't remember so much with the neighbors. So, but they did play cards in the wintertime other than that, so.
Did your family do anything for birthdays?
Boy, I can't remember that, but I do say that on the 4th of July, we always made homemade ice cream. That I remember. But as far as on a birthday, I can't remember that I hope we did, but I can't remember. If we did, I don't remember. But on the 4th of July, we always made homemade ice cream. So.
How'd you make the homemade ice cream?
Well, we had cows, so we had the milk and the cream. Okay, now then the ice, that was really something. Because we'd have to go to Neely. And I can't see why. In the winter, there was probably that Elkhorn River going through there. And then they had a place where you could buy ice. Honest to truly, you could buy ice. And our dad would go over and get us that. So we had the ice, so. But that was one thing I remember. We always had homemade ice cream on the 4th of July. So, and you'd have to you'd crank it by hand, naturally, no electricity. So, but we did always have ice cream, so on the 4th.
You had a family car then, or how did you get to Neely?
I think we had a family car. I think now, look at your dad, he's got pickups, I don't think my dad ever had a pickup. Never had a pickup.
So, what was life like growing up on the farm?
Well, we never had much, but we never knew we didn't have much. We were happy. We had each other. We played. We went to school. But we never had what people have now. Never.
Tell me a little bit about Elgin when you were growing up.
Well, my aunt had the popcorn stand. And we had a movie theater. You could go in for a dime. And that's one thing we would do on Saturday night. My mom and my dad, we had milk cows and chickens, so they would take their cream and their eggs to town to sell. And then they let us kids go to the show. So, and then my aunt, like I said, she had this popcorn stand. And sometimes she let us girls work in the popcorn stand. 'Cause she was, well, she just let us. She was good. My mom's mom died. So, Aunt Evie was very good to my mom. But, so she'd let us girls, and then we stayed there with her when she lives in town. We got to stay with her. And that was fun. That was fun living. We could be in town and do things, so.
What was your school like?
Well, I went to a country school. It's 2 miles from home. And we walked. And, you know, and then it was a job for, we all took our turns. Since we never had water, there was never any water. The neighbor, we take turns going up to the neighbors and getting the water, then bringing it back so that we could drink, you know, have something to drink. And then they had the teacher, they had a old potbelly stove in the center. And so, you know, didn't have any heat, you know, she had to come there early to get the heat. So, but it was, we had outdoor toilets naturally and everything. So some people had horses. There was a kind of a real long barn there. And that's where the kids that rode their horses, they could put their horses in that barn. But we never, I can't remember riding a horse. We had to walk, we walked most of the time, so.
Did you play any sports?
Oh no, never, no.
What were your favorite subjects in school?
Oh, I don't know. Reading, probably. I don't know. I mean, I liked school. I did good in school. I liked school and everything. So, but as far as which one was favorite, I don't know. And you know, we never had kindergarten. You never went to kindergarten. It started right out with the first grade, and you went to the 8th grade. And so then naturally, you know, well, you know, say you're a first grader and the 8th grader, they're doing something, well, naturally you would hear what they were saying and everything. So, but I mean, that's the way they were. They were no kindergarten, first to the 8th grade. So it's what they were. And then we went to town, went to high school in town, so.
When did you first start dating?
Oh, good heavens. It wasn't when I was, probably when I was, well, no, I think even out of high school, so.
What were dates like?
Probably the movies, that was the only thing. And then dances. Rayville had that dance hall down there. We'd go down there to dances, and then the movies, and that was probably pretty well it, so.
Do you remember if your parents gave you any advice about dating?
No, not a word.
When did you meet Grandpa?
Okay, they used to have dances in Elgin. Oh, God, that is so, when I stop and think, there were the men standing over there, and here were the women sitting, and then if you were lucky enough, one of the guys would come over and ask you to dance, you know, and so that's where we got together, was at a dance, so that was it, so.
How old were you?
Oh boy. Well, I got married when I was 22, so probably in my early 20 or so, you know, so.
When and why did you know he was the one?
I don't know. That was just it. I don't know. You'd have to ask. I don't know. So.
That's fine. Describe your wedding day.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can remember we got married. It was at 10:30 in the morning. That's when they used to get married, or maybe it was even 10. I can't remember, but I know it was in the morning. And then we went down to my Aunt Evie, whatever you say, and then she had breakfast for us. And you had to go to Neely to get your pictures taken. So then boy, that was really pushing it. Maybe we even got married at 9 o'clock, you know, because then, you know, then they had that noon, they had the neighbor ladies would fix the noon meal. We got, the reception was there at the night, it was American Legion Hall. Right now it's where the Veterans Clinic is. That's where the reception was. And then there was a dance that night. So, yeah, so.
So, once you had your own family, what kind of activities did you do with your family?
Well, you'd have to ask them.
Do you have any traditions?